I believe that we must understand and acknowledge the fact that artificial intelligence is no longer a future fantasy or a chapter in a computer science textbook. We are at a very crucial point when everyone should understand and know how to enable, deploy, and implement AI technology to solve the fundamental economic, social, and environmental issues we are now facing. So with that important message, I want to start my presentation today and help you figure out how you can transform your organization to not just become a data-driven enterprise, but really to become a model-driven enterprise that can quickly best respond to all these great predictions that coming from these very sophisticated models, AI technology, to really take your business to the next level. So with that, I'll introduce myself really quickly. My name is Nir Kaldero. I'm the head of data science. I've been at Galvanize for more than 5 years. As you saw before, I created a Master of Science in Data Science program and launched my book, Data Science for Executives, just 2 weeks ago. And I'm very, very excited to be here with you today. So here is our quick agenda. I'm going to kind of like give you an introduction about where we are right now when it comes to artificial intelligence and business innovation, and try to figure out, try to tell you what will be the future in the next 5 or 10 years, of what you as a leaders can do today to make sure that your organization will keep surviving in this fourth industrial revolution. The second part, I will go into the data-driven and model-driven enterprise, kind of like give you an overview how the data science workflow works and what is your participations within this workflow. And then I'm going to end up with principles, basically kind of like actionable playbook that you can act upon to really start the journey to transform your organization immediately right after this talk. So let's get started. It's a serious time to, it's time to get serious about artificial intelligence. And not because we talk about artificial intelligence for more than 60 years. Today we are time that we can actually look at early adopters, understand where they invested, what they did, what pillars in the organization they transform, how they thought about the change management. And we can look at these early adopters and figure out how can we replicate these success stories for your specific organization with your specific culture, mission, and business objective. As we can see, artificial intelligence is touching every industry. It's not just specific industry. Just name an industry that your business operates with, and I can help you figure out how artificial intelligence is already disrupting your industry. Now, the way I want you to think about artificial intelligence is actually as a brain helper. Many times when I speak to executives, they think that AI is just robotic or self-driving cars. I want you to actually think about AI as a brain helper. We are at an era of what I call human plus machine, not just the human or just the machine. And we are in such an era because there is lots of wealth of data around us. And our brain cannot even digest this very vast amount of data anymore. So just to give you some data points. So the average American try to digest and process roughly 10 million data points each day. 10 million points each equal to roughly reading 350 newspaper every single day. Now, let alone we don't have the time to read 350 newspaper a day. Do you think that even if I give you the time and free up your time to read 350 newspaper a day, will you be able to summarize them intelligently by the end of this process? The truth is that you probably will not be able to do that. There will just be an overload, cognitive overload of information. So we need a tool. We need a brain helper that can actually help us combat in this era of wealth of data. And this is where AI is actually playing a major role here. So the idea is that the technology will be our brain helper. It will augment our intelligence and not replace us. And here is how it's going to play. there is 10 million data points we will all try to digest and process on one single business day. And instead of like we interacting with them, the machine will basically take all of this data, will process it in a very egalitarian way, and will give us only output of, let's say, 7 or 10 data points that we can actually understand and process. And with respect to our gut feeling, experience, previous knowledge, we will choose the option that best resonates with us. So the intention of the technology is really not to replace us. It's really to augment our intelligence, to serve us better in an era of wealth of data. And this is why I believe that we are in an era of human plus the machine, a collaboration with the two aspects. And as Satya Nadella said, the CEO of Microsoft, we really need to figure out how to augment AI technology in everyone's hand, not just in our organizations, so we can actually solve the most crucial problems that we are now facing in this very complex, volatile world as part of the fourth industrial revolution. I want to show you some data about how major and disruptive is this technology. So Infosys argue and showed in research that companies who adopted artificial intelligence technology, data science, and machine learning 5 years ago can expect to see a 39% uplift in revenue by 2021. This is changing everything. This is completely disrupting your business. So, and I want to show you some more data here. We see, for example, in San Francisco, we have a lot of like AI, machine learning, blockchain, quantum computing type of startups. We see lots of disruption going on in the market, but we also see these startups being acquired. We see over the years that there is a 44% increase in acquisition since 2017. Their valuation is more than $2.5 billion. And we also know that, in the next 10 years, 1/3 of businesses will simply not survive. We are now at a crucial time that if incumbent companies will not transform themselves, they simply not survive because they will not be able to compete anymore. And I typically ask the audience, but you are not just right next to me. So I will show you some data about this disruption and what is likely to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So this is the magnitude of change. In the past 15 years, only 15 years, 52% of Fortune 500 companies have disappeared from the index. They either ceased to exist or got merged. And let's think about the life expectancy or how much time we can expect a company as part of this Fortune 500 index to survive. I want to show you data how it plays out today. So in 1955, the life expectancy of a Fortune 500 company was 75 years. It means that, people who manage these companies, their executives could sit very relaxed on their chair. Disruption probably was very, very far ahead of them. In 2015, this number dramatically dropped from 75 years to 15 years. And today, in 2018, the number is actually close to 8. It means that the clock is ticking. It means that large enterprises, especially the incumbents one, the one that are not the Google and the Facebook and the data-driven born type of companies, really need to figure out what they can do today in order to transform their business to really survive in the next 8 years and be able to compete within this very complicated, complex technology advancements and landscape within this fourth industrial revolution. So it's really time for everyone, again, especially incumbents, to try to figure out how to transform themselves. Now, let me show you one more data point here, just for you to understand the speed of change. So what you see here on the left side is Fifth Avenue, Eastern morning, 1900. You see all horses. There is one car. 13 years afterwards, same spot, Manhattan, 1913, Eastern morning. You can see all cars, one horse. And this was, 100 years ago. Think about with the internet, with globalization, what's the impact that the fourth industrial revolution will actually have on all of us today. So let's talk a little bit about how companies today leverage data science and artificial intelligence and what I believe the future will be. So today, most innovative companies rely on data science and machine learning to drive their business process, enhance their experience, increase efficiencies throughout the business. And I want to give you some examples of companies that do it very successfully. You're probably familiar with all of them. Let's take Amazon, for example. Amazon is one of the largest supply chain companies in the world. Typically, when I ask people about, tell me, what do you think Amazon is? People tell me Amazon is everything, which is kind of true. But if you really, think deeply about what they do, they move things from right to left, from one side of the world to another. And Amazon, as a very, very large supply chain company, literally perfected data science and artificial intelligence within each part of this very, very long chain. And I want to kind of give you some examples how they do that. So the head of AWS at Amazon a year ago took me to a site visit in the United States, one of the medium-sized Amazon warehouses. And, it was a very, very big compound. I saw a lot of trucks and a lot of packages coming in and out. And surprisingly, when he asked me how many packages you think float in and out, I said, I think 500,000 packages goes in and out on every business day throughout this very large compound. The truth is that there is more than 5 million packages coming in and out of this very fairly large warehouse. And what Amazon did is try to figure out how packages can actually float in and out in a very seamless, efficient way. So they use artificial intelligence and data science to figure out how to organize the packages within this warehouse so they can actually go back to their destination in a timeless manner. Do you think that an army of 500 people will be able to sort intelligently and efficiently store 5 million packages? Unfortunately, again, we are in an era of wealth of data. There is too much data, and even an army of 500 people will not be able to optimize this problem to the most efficient place. Another example of how Amazon is using and leveraging AI and data science to their business will be for doing pricing optimization. And they try to figure out how much they should reduce the price without hurting margins, so they still can be profitable and the seller can be profitable, but to incentivize us to actually buy their product. They build a very genius navigation map that helps their drivers drop the packages on the most efficient route to their destination. Facebook is another great example of a company that leveraged data science and artificial intelligence specifically for their content recommendation. Every time you Google something or even think about something, you go to Facebook, and all of a sudden it's part of your feed. So they have a very strong recommendation engine of content and advertisement and product that really resonate with our experience and interaction with the outside world. Google, not for nothing, became the leading search engine in the world. They basically track our data and preferences and try to figure out how they can show us advertisement that will incentivize us to click on them so they can actually collect the money. Alibaba with the robotics, I think you all should see the robotic kind of warehouse video that is on YouTube, how Alibaba is leveraging this technology with the data that they have to really perfect their operations. So what we see today is there's a lot of innovative companies that are using and leveraging their data and modeling techniques to really outperform their competitors and enhance their operations. But let's talk about what the future holds and how the future will look like when we think about this fourth industrial revolution and the disruption of data science and AI. We argue that the future of business innovation has an artificial intelligence component in the very core structure of the business, solution, or the product. And before I'm going to give you the examples, I want you to kind of like while I talk or maybe afterwards, think about how can you try to shift the solutions that you have, the product that you have, the company that you are managing, to kind of like ingest this kind of like AI component or DNA within each product and each solution that you currently bring to the market. So I want to give you some example of companies that kind of like had this like mindset and took data science and artificial intelligence and really plug it into the DNA of the company. The first one I want to showcase you is Nest. Nest is a very smart thermostat. Basically, the entire product is based on data science and artificial intelligence. Yes, it's cute, yes, it's very techy, but everything Nest does is basically collect data from us and from our environment and try to figure out how to set the optimal temperature and without us even like intervening or touching the device after 2 weeks. So how it happens? Basically, Nest connects to the phone. Your phone is connected to the router and to the internet. It knows when you actually get closer to home, so it can actually turn on the AC because your phone gives a signal to the router at your home because you are closer. It connects to the router so it can actually retrieve data from the outside. It knows what's the current temperature at your home. It knows what's the expected temperature in the next hour or so around your home and area. It collects a lot of data to try to figure out how to optimize the temperature. And the only thing we need to do, the human, is just play with this device, give it some cues in the first 2 weeks, whether it's too warm or too cold. And after 2 weeks, with all of this data, the device can actually automatically self-regulate the temperature. Nest is a great example of a company that kind of like abandoned the old school type of learning over programs. So we're moving from a world that we have a very long programs, very long set of code. Think about it as a very long set of code that try to figure out what's the best temperature. There is a lot of while statements and a lot of if statements. We're moving to a very compact learning algorithm that really leverage data in a very iterative way, where new data comes in, the models learns, orient themselves, and make predictions that best fit whatever business solutions and idea you have. Nest is a great example of that. Amazon Echo, I'm sure you all familiar with the device. Basically, you talk to that, it goes back to the data, trying to figure out what's the best response for that, and give us these results in a timeless fashion. Pandora started with the Genome Project more than 15 years ago. The Genome Project was all about trying to figure out how to best serve users with best songs recommendations. They did a fantastic job. We saw Spotify doing that lately, Google Play. So again, all of these products and solutions have an artificial intelligence in the very core structure of the business. And when I think whether these companies selling them because they look nice or because they are well designed, the truth is that they sell them because of the functionality. The functionality that the user need, the functionality that the user like, and this functionality is purely based on leveraging data and modeling techniques to serve us, the human, better. Now let's move on a little bit. I can talk about modeling technique, I can talk about the technology for a long time, but you really need to know that one of the pillars of AI is the data. And data is the king, and data is gold. In the 21st century, data is your competitive advantage. And you need to figure out how to start collecting and storing this data in an intelligent way, because what will help you actually compete and create all of these very sophisticated learning models is purely the data that your organization have. 20% of the data in the world is actually accessible for all of us. It's on the internet. 80% of the data in the world is within the enterprise. It's behind the firewall. This is your data. So most of the data actually out there is in your hands. And your job is to figure out how to take this very unique data and leverage it to take your company to the next level. Now, I want to shift a little bit forward and talk about the model-driven journey. You know, this is the intelligence maturity curve. I'm kind of like want to give you a picture of what is currently happening in the US. Most of Fortune 500 companies in the US are actually part of these three first steps. You know, some of them doing reporting and data analytics, trying to figure out hypothesis testing, doing some reporting again. This is the data-driven phase of this intelligence maturity curve. And what we see in the past 2 years is that companies are climbing higher and higher towards what we call automated data-driven. And that's your goal. I believe that we are even behind the hype of a data-driven enterprise. We are now entering an era and time where companies really start focusing on making predictions and forecasting, but in a very automatic fashion. So when the consumer is interacting with your company, the company is best responding in a very intuitive and natural way to all the data that you have and to all the actions that the consumer is triggering with your solutions and all your interactions. So again, the idea is try to figure out how to climb the ladder here, move from data-driven to automated model-driven, enhancing the journey of your clients and their experience in a very automated fashion. Obviously, this will revolutionize your business. And I want to show you now the data science workflow. Not because I want to train you to become data scientists. I want to present it to you because I want you to understand your participation within this journey or this workflow. And one of the key aspects here is that AI and data science basically have 3 pillars. The first pillar of AI is all about the data, and I just spoke about it a minute ago. The second pillar is all about the technology. And the third pillar is all about people, culture, process. Now, most of people will say that, or typically when I speak with executives, they always kind of like complain about the lack of data. They say they don't have the data, or sometimes they say they don't have the technology infrastructure to start the journey with artificial intelligence and data science. But the true problem that we have, and one of the biggest barriers for AI adoption in the world, is actually not the data and not the technology. Companies like yours, Fortune 2000 companies in the United States, has a lot of data. And they typically have also a lot of money to implement this technology, give a call to IBM, give a call to Dell, work with very large technology provider to bring this technology to their infrastructure to their home. The true problem that they have is really around people, culture, process. How they can start operationalizing this data science workflow within the organization so your organization can quickly best respond to all the predictions that are coming from this very sophisticated learning model. And part of it is really the end-to-end change management that is required for implementation. I work with very, very large enterprises in the past 5 years, and this is what I've seen. I've seen that 60% of cutting-edge multi-million dollars projects in data science are actually not being implemented. Now, how come that 60% of these, very disruptive projects are not being implemented in organizations that really need this disruption and innovation? The truth is that it's not because of the data, because these models have been tested and validated. it's not because of the technology, because the technology enables these models to leverage the data to create prediction. It's purely because of the issue that we have in the end-to-end change management. And most of these projects are actually not being implemented at the very, very last phase of this workflow. It means that organizations spending a lot of money, time and energy, and not actually realizing the ROI. And the question is why? Why? Because executives and business people don't, first of all, understand this workflow, but also don't understand their participation within this workflow, where they need to interject, where they need to validate that the results and the project is going in the right direction, and most importantly, how to really operationalize that within their enterprise. As you can see here, the end-to-end change management involves both business executives and technical people. That's a new concept to our world. You know, when executives got trained at Harvard and great schools all around the world, change management was just, you know, you're a business person, you have executive sponsor, and this is how you're going to operationalize the projects within the organization. We're in a different era. We're in a different type of settings and world. Right now, executives need to figure out how to collaborate with analytics and data scientists and technical teams to really operationalize all of that. So to quickly kind of like guide you through that, the data science workflow has 4 different phases. The first one is the ask. You need to start asking great questions that can help you revolutionize your business through data. The way I typically do it is I help executives think about their top 5 business problems, and then we help them translate those top 5 business problems into data and modeling problems. The second part here is that once you figure out how to translate your business problems to data problems, go find the data within your organization. And there is one message I want to share with you. You already have a lot of data. You sit on a lot of data. So stop shopping and searching for data around you. Focus on what you have because you already have a lot. And once you get the data, you prepare it, you make sure that it's in the right shape so you can actually feed it into the modeling, the analyze part, where the data is being digested and processed, and these models, you know, will trigger some result for us. And then the last, most crucial part of the workflow is actually how to take this outcome from these models and implement them within our business, within our workflow. Again, 60% of cutting-edge data science machine learning projects actually stop here. After typically around 8 months, that the organization spend time and money creating those cutting-edge process. So what I want you to do is to think about this change management. Think about what is your participation within this workflow, and I want you to think about the last phase, the act phase, actually day 1. Entering a data science machine learning project at day 1 and having the mindset and thinking, what do I need to do 8 months from now, when the model will actually be proven, will be critical to operationalize it within your organization. Again, you don't want to spend 8 months and afterwards get to this point where you actually want to realize the ROI and figure out that your organizations need a system enhancement that will take a year or a year and a half. This means basically that your organization didn't benefit or didn't realize the ROI behind this great project and modeling techniques. So think about the change management at day 1. Think about what you need to do from people, from culture, from process right now when you actually start embarking on this journey to make sure that your organization can benefit and realize these opportunities. So I want to give you kind of like some actions, some principles that I have been working on with very, very large enterprises in the past 5 years. These principles, I saw them helping organization start the journey. The journey is not easy. The journey is complex. Some organizations are, very distributed. Some of them are very large. Trying to steer the ship will take time, but I have full confidence in large enterprises steering kind of like the ship and trying to make sure that they can go in the right direction. So really quickly, I don't have much time, so I will get into it right away. So what is a model-driven enterprise? I spoke a lot about data-driven and model-driven, and I want to give you the clear definition of that. A data and model-driven enterprise is basically a company, an organization, an enterprise that cultivates the culture of continuously using data and machine intelligence techniques to make all business decisions. And again, most of people will say that a data-driven organization or a model-driven enterprise is an organization that makes business decisions. I'm telling you right now that we need to try to figure out how to make all of our business decisions by leveraging data and technology and modeling techniques. We know that data-driven decisions are better decisions. Again, I'm not saying that these models or this technology will replace us. It serves us as a brain helper to make these decisions. We need to move to a place where we need to use a tool that will look at 10 million data points, shrink it to a much more consumable size that we, the human, will actually know how to digest, we can actually process, and make the final business decision. So this technology is a brain helper that helps your organization solve your top business problems. It's very hard. Why you want to become a model-driven enterprise is because you want your organization to best respond to the technology, and I think I spoke about it. Why it's so hard to become a model-driven enterprise? Unfortunately, it's a problem of all of us, the executives, the people who are marching the organization forward. We need to figure out how to champion data and think about this change management to really push our organization forward. So let me show you right now where you can start the journey and give you these 6 principles. And again, the principles is not necessarily a playbook. This is kind of like an ideas where you can take and go back to your organization and company and try to figure out how you can position them, how you can leverage these principles to really make the transformation work for your enterprise. So the first principle is all about strategy. You need to start from your business objectives. And once you have your top business objectives in mind, you need to design a roadmap and have a clear data strategy or clear strategy, some people call it AI strategy, on how to leverage the data that you already have. That's the first component of that. Again, think about your top 5 business problems and create a strategy and design a roadmap that clearly state how you're going to leverage the data that you have to answer this top 5, 10 business problems that your organization is facing. The second part here is that you need to treat data as a strategic asset. Again, data is the gold of the 21st century. Data is your competitive advantage. Again, 80% of the data out there in the world is actually behind the firewall. It's your data. This is your competitive advantage. Treat it as a strategic asset in your business and figure out what you can do today in order to make the most out of it. The second principle here is all about the data. You need to figure out how to democratize your data within the organization. Now, it's a little bit tricky because not all of organization wants and can, from a regulatory perspective, democratize their data, right? Some banks and insurance companies cannot bring all data to every employee's hand. It's just not going to work. So you need to figure out intelligently how to democratize your data within the enterprise, because data-driven decisions tend to be better decisions. And without getting into much to that, I want to give you an idea how you can democratize your data efficiently. So here is how it plays. Think about the people that you have, the different departments and role that people have within your organization, and try to create a role-based system that basically maps decisions of few personas or personas within your organization and match data to that. I truly believe that in the next 2-3 years, blockchain will play a big part on this data democratization aspect. Companies will start using the blockchain technology to figure out how to bring the data to the right people in a very secure fashion. A great example of company that does something like that, not on the blockchain, but figure out how to democratize the data, is Airbnb. And I really urge you to kind of like read their brilliant article, how they basically put data in every employee's hand and route this data throughout the organization in a very efficient, seamless way. Third principle is all about culture. You need to create a data science and analytics culture. You need to figure out, as the leaders, how you create incentives for your employees to look at data at the point of action. Every time your employees make a decision, they need to orient their mind at the data and try to figure out what's the best course of action. Companies like Alibaba and Airbnb, they do a great job with that. Second part of this principle is how you bring closer technical and non-technical teams. One of the biggest gaps that we currently have in the industry is that technical and non-technical people do not know how to work together. They barely know the common language that kind of like can bring them together from a business-wise to really operationalize this kind of like type of initiative. The marketers are highly focused on the messaging, on the business side. Engineers sometimes don't care about the business questions. They just want to do stuff that they like, right? We need to figure out how to bridge these two personas and make sure that they can actually collaborate in a seamless way. Google is a great example of a company that does that very successfully through education, through a new persona that's called middleman. Basically, think about it as kind of like a data translator. On one hand, it holds the business side. On the other hand, it holds the technical side. And we saw in the past 2 years that this persona is actually growing in the industry and is actually helping kind of like bring these two very distinct ends to work together. The fourth one is speed to insight. You need to unleash data insight as a service. Again, everyone should know what's the data that you have in your organization to orient their mind to make better data-driven decisions. The next part of it is not just to create dashboard that will showcase this data, is actually to create machine learning and machine intelligence techniques that everyone can actually have visibility on. So think about it, I always like to say, think about it as IBM Watson. You have the data, you drag it to the right side of the corner, you press on 3 buttons, and here we go. You have an output from a machine intelligence, from a data science AI techniques. So basically, the idea here is that everyone in the organization can benefit from this technology without even knowing how to code. Think about it as democratizing AI and machine learning to the hands of each one of your employees so they can actually take the data that they have, get the predictions by pressing on 3 buttons, orient their mind, and make more smart decisions. The fifth principle is all about action. You need to make sure that data science value is a crucial business KPI, and you need to figure out how to prioritize your investments in data science and AI with respect to the data ROI. And the way I typically help companies trying to figure this out is that I want you to think about the AI data science investment and prioritize them looking at feasibility versus impact. So feasibility will be, for example, do I have the data? Is the data in the right shape? Is the data labeled? These are questions that you can internally answer within your organization. Impact. Is this project going to generate $10,000 to my enterprise, or this is actually a project that's going to generate $2 to $5 to $10 million? So once you answer this question, you can actually position and pick the projects that actually have the highest feasibility and highest impact. So these are the projects that will help you start shifting your company, start transforming your enterprise, and start the journey on a very high note. The last principle is all about environment. We need to figure out and make sure that our data governance, security, privacy is very well, positioned within our organization. Organizations need to figure out how to master this component. Again, your data is your competitive advantage. You do not want it to leak. So you really have to figure out and look at the journey, how data flows within your enterprise and also outside of it. For example, you want to go and start to figure out where you collect the data, how this data is actually flowing within your enterprise, which applications it touches, and then where the final outcome and output goes. Once you understand this data journey, you will be able to actually go back and create policies how to master the governance, security, and privacy of your data asset. And with that, I believe I'm right on time. And I want to say thank you for everyone for giving me the opportunity. Actually, I have 1 more minute? Yeah? Okay, 1 more minute. Let's do 1 more slide. I just want to conclude and say thank you, but also show you what is your role as a leader in the 21st century. So the first one is champion data. Always, think about the data first approach and rally your employees around and behind you to start looking at data at the point of action. The second one is that create this modeling technique. Start using data science in one department, but also figure out how to replicate the experience and share the wins within other departments that you have. You always have to keep refining your data strategy because technology is constantly changing. So you have to figure out what's the best data strategy that you can take. And typically I see organizations that refine their data strategy every 3-4 months. That's completely fine. And the last one is get calibrated and keep learning. Technology, again, will keep changing, but we will have to keep adjusting our organization, mindset, and tools to make sure that we can actually know how to navigate our organization to a place where we can actually compete, retain, and grow our market share and survive in this fourth industrial revolution. So with that, thank you for the time. We will open it for Q&A. So if someone has a question, more than happy to share my knowledge and experience. Probably it's going to give. Yes. Yes, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you, yeah. Oh, okay. Now I can see. These are questions for me. We can't really hear the microphone. Can you press on the image of them? Can you press on their image? Yeah. Someone is calling you. Shelly. Someone is calling you.
Oh, they're done. Okay.
Okay, good.
All right. Yep, I hear you. I'm on the phone with them. Hold on. Okay, you guys are done? Okay. Great, thank you.
Good.
I'm sorry?
Bonnie, was it?
Oh, okay, no questions. Okay, got it. Okay, we're clear then. All right, thank you. Okay, bye.
Okay, good.
Great. We're ending the Zoom. He just called me.
Okay. Did you get any feedback from them? Where's my phone? Let's see what they say. What did he say? But it was, I don't know, it was good luck today. You sent Flora a different presentation from Nasdaq? No, I didn't. The presentation you sent me is different from the Nasdaq. No, it's not. It's the same. Why do you say the presentation is different?
I only use the presentation that Diablo sent me.
Yeah, we have the same presentation. I only sent one presentation.